my name's Tom Blaksley. I'm from what3words, and we've done a few sessions with the AAV team in the past, and there will be. I'm very aware that there will be a mix of people in the room who know about what3words and people in the room who have never heard of it. So in order to cater to everyone, going to sort of run over a bit of old ground as to sort of why we exist, give a bit of explanation and a recap of how what3words works, and then run into the work we do, obviously, especially in the automotive sector. And then I want to finish on a new or relatively new voice product that we've launched. So just a quick, to take a step back, what3words, very simply, a global addressing system. And we built it about 5-6 years ago. And the first question people often ask is why? Why did we build a new global addressing system? And the answer is pretty well that sort of traditional addresses weren't really designed not only for voice, but also just for general modern day systems. There's a whole host of problems with a system that grew up organically. I'm just going to run through sort of the big ones here to try and sort of illustrate that problem, bring it to life a bit. So the first problem with the fact that it's an organic system is that you get lots of repeat addresses. Addresses aren't necessarily unique. So for example, this is in Stuttgart. If I want to go to 30 Bleinigerstraße, that I'm probably going to struggle to get, I think, 5 or 6 all within sort of half an hour of each other. You have a similar problem if you try and type that address into a ride-hailing app. In places like London, this happens all over the world. In Mexico City, you have 600 roads called Calle Juarez. In London, you have, I think, 24, 25 roads called Church Road. This is what happens if you try and enter it into this is actually Mercedes sat-nav here. Not Mercedes' fault, just the fact that sort of addresses weren't all designed at once. Then you have lots of cases where addresses just are imprecise and maybe not even existent at all. So for example, big office blocks, football stadiums, sports stadiums, often you will have one address just for the center of that place, but actually you need sort of the pickup point or the drop-off point. That's actually sort of the place you want to drive to and meet someone. Or some of the best places simply will never have an address. Traditional addresses are never going to be able to help us talk about places like this particularly easily. Then more pertinent to the voice issue is that some addresses may exist, but are just going to be very hard to pronounce. You may not speak the language. You may not be able to say it aloud. You may be able to try to say it aloud, but I will avoid embarrassing myself by trying to pronounce this German address here. And then some addresses are just plain weird. There's a genuine road I think it's in Nevada in the US. Some addresses, even in the language that you speak, are difficult to pronounce. And then you have kind of, from a voice perspective, the insurmountable challenge, which is homophones. Now, homophones are addresses that homophones, I think, as probably most of this audience will know, are kind of a voice assistant's worst enemy. They are different words that sound exactly the same. It's especially a problem in languages like English and French and non-phonetic languages. So say, for example, I think this is in Texas. You have 2 roads, 48 minutes from one another. One is called Beach Street and the other is called Beach Street. They sound identical. One is spelled B-E-E-C-H, one is spelled B-E-A-C-H. Kind of impossible to disambiguate between those two. Another great example is, especially when you consider the way most of North America talks about street addresses, is a case like this. So if I say to you, take me to 241st Street, that can quite literally be number 240 on 1st Street, the 241st Street, number 2 on 41st Street. And obviously this problem is compounded. So even when addresses are really accurate, just combine that with voice and, naturally, given that they weren't designed at the same time, there are going to be pretty insurmountable challenges. In fact, the only way when it comes to voice to talk about places with precision that the levels of precision that machines need, you can't drop a pin on a map like you could if you're just tapping away to each other on your smartphone. You have to use GPS coordinates. GPS coordinates are great, super precise, but unlikely that anyone's going to remember that and sort of say that over the phone, or say that to their voice assistant. Now, for the automotive sector, this is a huge problem because actually, quite consistently, I would say in probably the top three use cases that people want to do with voice in their vehicle is one is probably talk on the phone to people. The other is change the music, change the radio, as Lucas was just explaining. And the biggest one that always comes up is just to simply navigate somewhere. And it doesn't matter how good your sort of turn-by-turn directions are, if you can't sort of easily and consistently say where you want to go and be understood, that's going to be a problem. So that's kind of why we designed what3words. The way our system works is we basically cover the world in a grid of 3 meter by 3 meter squares, and we label every one of these squares with a more or less random combination of 3 words. So instead of using coordinates for this square here, you can use the name for this square, the address, if you like, is gazed across like. And we continue this for the world over. There are enough words that you can give every square a unique combination. So here, suddenly you can talk about a specific doorway in a large building or complex, or a specific pickup point or drop-off point in a large sports stadium, something like that. And we built it in different languages. So there are now about 50 different languages where you can where this works. And unlike traditional addresses where you have similar ones in similar places and big potential for confusion, we purposefully put similar addresses in different places. So table, chair, lamps in one corner of the world, table, chair, lamp in the other. And that really helps spot any errors and help speech assistants. So we have a consumer app, but really what we're focused on is bringing this experience to third parties, to businesses, be they sort of independent developers or sort of big global brands, and across a variety of use cases. So this year we started working with Hermes, who are one of the biggest logistics companies in the world, to help deliver parcels, so that you can say, I want my parcel at the 3 words of a specific location. We do a lot of work with emergency services, so that when you call 999 or 911, you can actually give the 3 words of exactly where you are, especially useful in places that don't have traditionally have addresses. Similar use case for breakdown, working with the AA and others in the UK. And then on the other side, sort of other extreme, we have people who, when they are sharing locations, they are doing it using 3 words. So at one end of the spectrum, you have guides like Lonely Planet for sort of backpackers around the world and places where they might not even speak the language or have any sort of addresses at all. They're using what3words. But then right at the other end of other extreme, you have brands like the Kempinski, who actually list what3words addresses for every one of their hotels, so that people arriving from the airport aren't going to sort of are going to know exactly where to go. And this is actually an example of now in Bavaria. All across Bavaria, we have signs like this, so that if you need to call up services, you can actually provide the what3words address in German or the coordinates. It's sort of your choice, but it's sort of just, it's quite a normal thing now, really. And then in the automotive sector, we work with a variety of end automotive brands and suppliers in the middle, so that people can simply use what3words like they would any other type of address in vehicle. So Mercedes have been long-time partners, as of both Cerence and SoundHound. Most recently, though, we brought some brands, like we've had a partnership this year with Here Maps and also with Mitsubishi, who we pushed live with quite recently. But the thing that we've been focusing on a lot recently is actually enabling people to not always rely on a third party, to have to rely on a third party to use what3words for voice. but we've actually built our own voice API, so we can actually take the audio from third parties. We built this in partnership with a company called Speechmatics, based out of the UK. We can now take audio directly through an application, turn that, transcribe that, turn it into coordinates, and then pass that to back to a developer. So we've actually built a nice little example of how this works, using a combination of our own WhatsApp and also and the Mercedes SDK. So actually, Tim, if you want to queue up the video, this is a little run through from Chris, our CEO.
It means you can just speak the 3 words to your watch wherever you are, and it'll be sent straight to your car's navigation system. So, for example, I'm about to meet Lara, who's added the what3words address to the calendar invite, index home raft. So now I'll go into 3-word auto, index home raft. So I'm now here in the car. The what3words address that I sent through is on the screen, and I can just hit this to navigate straight there.
So, assuming the screen is back on me now, that is built using the what3words voice API, and we sort of open that up to anyone, be that small individual or individual developer, up to large corporate entities. Anyone can sort of develop with that. So, at the risk of being a couple of minutes over time, we'll wrap up there. Very happy to and keen to dive in more detail on any of the above.